My name's Miller and I'm 5 days on T.
What's up? I'm Miller. This is my voice 2 weeks on T.
This is my voice 4 weeks on T.
This is my voice update, 2 months on testosterone.
What's up? My name is Miller and I am 10 months on testosterone.
I'm officially 1 year on testosterone.
What's up guys, Derek, moreplates.com. Today we're going to be talking about viralization and voice changes caused by anabolic androgenic steroids. So a lot of girls, they'll take things like Anavar, they'll take things like, some chicks even take Tren. It's fucking mind-blowing what some coaches will prescribe to chicks nowadays to compete at the highest level or like win a fucking bikini show. Even some chicks who just want to get a nice fitness model type physique will take shit far above their pay grade of what they need to be taking to achieve it. Similar to a gym rat blasting Tren to go on a beach, there's a lot of chicks who are blasting, high doses of Anavar, high doses of SARMs even, when it's unnecessary. I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that or shouldn't do anything related to anabolics, but often the dosage deployed is far too ridiculous. The duration of exposure is too ridiculous, and they are not choosing viralization void compounds first. I often talk about the options before deferring to the actual anabolic androgenic compounds that actually agonize the androgen receptor and can cause that voice change, which we'll be discussing shortly. But I wanted to show an example of how quickly the voice can actually change from start to finish. This is the best representation of longitudinal kind of start to finish is transgenders, because it's not like individuals who compete in bikini shows or figure shows are going to monitor their voice change and post it on the fucking internet, but individuals who are actually trying to transition from female to male and are proud of their progress are obviously going to prominently feature it. And we can see some actual timelines associated and how quickly the changes actually happen using literal replacement amounts of test. For males, that is, which we'll get into the dosage shortly, but this is something a few people tagged me in a while ago. I've had it on my to-do list, and there was another one I got tagged in recently. I was like, fuck it, this is definitely video worthy. So this is how quickly the voice can change with mild exposure to literal male level, what a male would naturally produce hormone-wise, which is not that much in a bodybuilding context. Are you gonna step on a stage using what would be equivalent to 50 milligrams a week of tests? Fuck no, dude. You are going to be in a guy who's injecting 50 milligrams a week. You're probably going to make your test levels worse than what you would naturally produce. But in chicks who are administering this exogenously to transition from female to male, this is the kind of drastic change that can be expected. And there are chicks using fucking exogenous T, as well as things like Tren and other compounds that are very, very problematic, which we'll get to shortly. But this is an example, pre-T.
This is my voice pre-T. 1 month on T.
2 months on testosterone. 3 months on T.
4 months? What the fuck?
4 months. What the fuck, bro? Here's 5 months.
My voice 1 day on T.
Today I make 5 months on T.
So pretty you're basically at dude level, full puberty voice mode within half a year easily. So here's another example which has a bit more examples throughout the timeline. I'll have to jump from this one to the bottom because they actually have better voice sound quality on the bottom one. But this is an example of right when they started and then relative to the end. So I'll have to jump back and forth quick. So here.
My name's Miller and I'm 5 days on T.
What's up? I'm Miller. This is my voice.
So you can't hear them at this part. So that's why I'm going to jump to the other one. But this is, just remember this, 5 days on T.
My name's Miller and I'm 5 days on T.
All right, 5 days on T. Now we go to...
What's up? I'm Miller. This is my voice 2 weeks on T.
2 weeks. Now we're at 4 weeks.
My voice 4 weeks on T.
So we're at 1 month only right now. Keep in mind.
This is my voice update, 2 months on testosterone.
2 months.
What's up? My name is Miller and I am 10 months on testosterone.
So obviously pretty big jump. So actually maybe not as much longitudinal data as the other one, but worth noting nonetheless. Let's keep going.
I'm officially 1 year on testosterone.
I'm officially 2 years on testosterone and about 2 months post-op.
And now let's go to the, I think there's like a 5-year update or something at the end.
What's up? I'm Miller. This is my voice.
In about 2 months post-op. And in about another month, I will be 3 years on testosterone. So this is my progress.
What's up, guys? Today I am officially 3 years on testosterone. So
My name's
Okay, can't really hear that. Well, you can see the drastic difference again. So at the end there.
testosterone.
My name's Miller and I'm 5 days on T.
Okay, so it happens pretty fucking quick within a matter of weeks. Like at, the 6 to 8 week mark, you're at, like, it seems like you're pretty much like halfway fucking there almost at that point. It's pretty wild. So we look at the actual dosages deployed for transgender female to men FTM. So we have oral test on decanoate dosages, intramuscular or subcutaneous injections. We have enanthate or cypionate used at, I think this is fucking ridiculous, 1,000 milligrams every 12 weeks. What the fuck, dude? The infrequency, absolutely absurd. But anyways, test cyp or enanthate at 50 to 200 milligrams per week or 100 milligrams to 200 milligrams every 2 weeks. So this is like representative of like essentially what you're expecting to see in like a TRT regimen. Basically, the target is to keep within the male physiologic range of 300 to 1,000 nanograms per deciliter. And this is, in contrast to a, like 40, 50, 60, 70 nanogram per deciliter total for females. So essentially the goal is to like 10x your androgen exposure. And it's kind of wild how quickly this shit really happens. Within a matter of weeks, you're at a level of irreversible voice changing. Like within like literally fucking 3 to 4 weeks, you can hear these individuals having significant deepening of the voice to a point that if they then pulled out the therapy, they would probably not get back to baseline. Just because you go back to a estrogen dominant, like low T environment, like representative of a natural like female, it doesn't mean that these voice changes aren't going to be permanent, because there are structural, like morphological changes of the vocal cords that can't exactly be just like reversed by having significant estrogen exposure and like androgen deprivation. So I wanted to show just an example again. Let's think of like the most female safe steroids. Again, there's no female safe steroid, but like if we were to, classify some of them, things like Anavar, things like Primo are commonly deferred to. Things like Nandrolone are often seen as, like Nandrolone specifically is interesting because it's the most hair safe of all the anabolic steroids, but it's interesting in that the actual base compound, the parent compound Nandrolone, is not that safe, all but far more tissue selective than testosterone and better in a viralization aspect. When it's 5-alpha reduced in the scalp, yeah, it's super hair safe, but in the vocal cords, is there a significant amount of expression of 5-alpha reductase? No, there's not. So you actually have a significant androgenic effect in vocal cords despite the paradoxical hair safety in the scalp. So here's an example of a female who literally only used 50 milligrams of Nandrolone for 6 weeks. This is a 27-year-old female bodybuilder presented with androgenized voice after 6 weeks of androgenic anabolic steroids. She was followed for 20 years. So let's see if the shit reverts, requiring multiple surgical interventions to increase her pitch and presented with delayed severe vocal cord atrophy. What? Vocal fold atrophy, sorry. With concurrent abnormal low testosterone levels. Androgenic anabolic steroids can have viralizing effect in women. The most common side effects include weight gain, acne, and increased libido, which are usually reversible. However, the masculinized voice change associated with AAS, including decreased pitch, reduced F, I'm assuming this is, some sort of metric of like the hertz, I guess, and vocal fold thickening. Is this supposed to be cord? Like, I'm actually genuinely confused. But anyways, vocal fold thickening has been reported as irreversible despite discontinued use. A new entity, anabolic steroid-induced hypogonadism, described by Gero, suggests AAS can have an inhibitory effect on the hormonal axis long after discontinuing their use, including hypotestosteronism. Several authors have since described this condition in men, but there has been no reported case of ASIH in women or description of vocal symptoms due to this condition. This is a case report on the effect of AAS in a 27-year-old woman who ingested AAS when competing as a bodybuilder. This patient experienced disabling side effects due to androgenization of her voice and required surgery to increase vocal pitch in order to be identified as a female. She has been followed for 20 years and experienced further unanticipated changes in vocal function many years after discontinuing anabolic steroid use concurrently with abnormally low test levels. So she is a 27-year-old woman, formerly a bodybuilder, sought treatment at Tertiary Vocal Center for Masculine Voice in 1998. She was followed for 20 years, and you can see the dosage deployed. The patient had taken nandrolone, what is often seen as a female safe compound to some extent. Obviously, dosage is the poison, duration is the poison, but again, like a 4 to 6 week cycle at like a dosage equivalent to what would be representative of like 50 milligrams is like barely barely HRT in men. Like you'd probably make yourself feel like shit if you use 50 milligrams as a man for TRT replacement. So we have like a tissue selective alternative with far more well tolerated in a viralization context than the base testosterone at the same dosage as HRT amounts in men, being used at only 50 milligrams for 6 weeks. 50 milligrams for only 6 weeks as part of a muscle enhancement bodybuilding program. The voice change developed within 8 weeks of starting the androgenic steroids, and despite discontinuing the drug, the voice did not improve. No other previous voice issues or general health problems were reported. The patient was no longer bodybuilding and denied any other hormone replacement or medical therapy. She was fully evaluated by an endocrinologist and was followed long-term by her specialist. And they show, all the differences in her vocal cords, endoscopic evaluation of the larynx at initial presentation showing thickened, dull pink vocal folds. I guess this is indeed the correct term, with blunting of the free edge bilaterally. I was just used to hearing vocal cords, so, my learning something new every fucking day, bro. Direct laryngoscopy showing an anterior web creation to create 1/3 membranous vocal fold web using microlaryngoscopy, anterior vocal fold mucosal resection, and gel foam paste injection. Pfizer. Patient had no voice complaints for 10 years, but returned 13 years later with new symptoms of pitch and phonation breaks, inconsistent and weak voice quality without change in pitch. Basically, after taking nandrolone for 6 weeks at a relatively, not that big of a dose, dude, ends up with permanent voice changes in a viralizing aspect. So this shows this is just one example, obviously, but a lot of women, this shit creeps up fucking quick. So if your coach has you using, you're just using a little splash of Anavar, a little splash of Nandrolone, a little splash of Primo, this shit, you do not have a lot of time to play with when it comes to this stuff. You have to be very fucking careful. Now, again, not only is the dose and duration the poison, but the actual compound selection is, the poison too. Obviously you don't want to be using 50 milligrams of literal fucking test, nor do you want to be using compounds that are, have significant amounts of androgenic signaling. Frankly, there are very few compounds to really pick from, and nandrolone on paper and actual practical application is not one of the worst ones. However, in a voice changing aspect, it can definitely be problematic, whereby it probably makes sense, unless you're a hardcore bodybuilder, to, potentially be averting it altogether when you are looking at things that could otherwise be leveraged in the non-viralizing component category entirely. And then if you have maxed out all these and you're a fucking competitor stepping on stage and you need this shit to enter some high-level show with muscle building endeavors far exceeding what otherwise is representative of the ideal female form for 99% of women, then maybe you defer to, a SARM and or an anabolic, a low dose benign, in and out of your system fucking quick, also being a very notable term, Anavar or something. Now again, I don't know if she was using decanoate or nandrolone phenylpropionate, but the actual ester chosen is also very, very critical. If you're on decanoate and you're noticing voice changes, imagine having to basically sit there and wait for this shit to clear out of your system for fucking weeks, dude, and just deal with the ramifications of it. This is why orals can be, more favorable in a female aspect. If you have some sort of issue, you pull it fucking quick and it's in and out of your system within a matter of a couple days, not a matter of weeks. So you can see where, it might be problematic if you're using a long-acting agent. And even with a phenylpropionate, it's not in and out of your system in 1 or 2 days, which can be, problematic in itself. So ultimately, I would defer to some of the videos I've done in the past. I did the Kristen Nunn video. I'll put up a card in the corner, Kristen Nunn steroid cycle, where I basically elaborated on some of the viralizing, completely void of viralizing compounds that could be potentially looked at first. I also mentioned in the SARM's Girl Returns video, the ramifications on free testosterone levels of combined oral contraceptives. I literally said oral twice, but it's fine. Combined oral contraceptives like progestins coupled with ethinyl estradiol being used in females, and how much you could be impacting your muscle growth and strength outcomes / body composition in general just by using your combined oral contraceptive, and how picking a more well-tolerated birth control modality is probably going to be one of the first things you can do that doesn't involve, instead of using a shitty combined oral contraceptive that fucks up your test levels, let your body do what it naturally is capable of from a muscle building aspect and regulate all your hormones accordingly before you defer to something from the anabolic androgenic steroid side of things. Because why the fuck would you lean on something here when you're literally shutting down your natural muscle building hormones by over 50%? Logically, the first thing to look at is like, maybe you can tolerate a copper IUD better than, your oral fucking nandrolone derivative plus ethinyl estradiol. That would be like a first, smart thing to look at potentially. In addition, things like L-Carnitine, things like growth hormone, a lot of things I've mentioned in the other videos, PPAR delta modulators, like things of this nature that are going to be very, very noticeable in a performance aspect as ergogenic aids in females, but otherwise go overlooked because they're seen as like weak by males. But in reality, for females, they're now I'm not saying growth hormone seen as weak for males, but I'm just saying like some of the other agents, like low doses of clenbuterol for inducing mTOR phosphorylation, offsetting, catabolism, stuff like this. All of the stuff on this side of the equation is very overlooked by men because it's not as conducive to muscle growth in a guy who has fucking 800 nanogram per deciliter total test levels. It doesn't move the needle as much as it does in a girl. But in a girl who literally can notice like the most benign fucking shit in men, very, very performance enhancing some of this stuff, and can cumulatively lead to amount of muscle growth that otherwise could equate to like the prime fucking female physique. That's not stepping on a bodybuilding stage, of course, but from like a bikini or just like a straight up like fitness model type look is totally achievable, probably with deferring to this like so minimally that you can avoid viralizing outcomes entirely. And that's why I try to hammer these videos so hard, is to let girls know they don't need to be using things like fucking tren, like fucking nandrolone probably. You don't need to be using a lot of this shit at the end of the day when you have so many options in this category that often go overlooked entirely before you then look to a more safe anabolic like like an Ostarine or like a super low dose Anavar. Like, why not be leveraging things like even ecdie steroids, turkesterone, ecdysterone, things that could otherwise agonize the estrogen receptor and void entirely of androgenic activity. Don't agonize the androgen receptor at all, but can still produce robust effects in females. All of that kind of shit cumulatively can equate to a level of performance enhancing outcomes that ultimately nullify / like totally fucking neutralize the need for you to defer to. Maybe you don't need a fucking 20 milligram dose of Anavar anymore. Maybe you could get away with like 2.5 to 5 or none at all ideally just by looking at this shit. So ultimately you have very little leeway when it comes to females, especially if you're a guy who's thinking of putting your girl on shit. Just be very aware the amount of little leeway you have with this shit, and it's not like a 50 milligram dose per week is that benign. And when you actually think about it, like, oh, 10 milligrams Anavar, that's nothing. That's 70 milligrams a week, dude. Like, that's not nothing. This is not a totally benign fucking dose that is going to be not problematic for all females. For some females, it's going to be enough to actually induce some changes that are potentially permanent. A 6-week cycle is not that long. And having the leeway of like 50 to fucking 70 milligrams of shit, like, you don't have that much leeway, dude. Be very, very careful about this shit. That's what I'm saying for all my female viewers and my male viewers who otherwise have females, that work out or are otherwise interested in this shit. Be aware of your other options on this side of the spectrum and highly leverage them before you defer to anything that interacts with the androgen receptor. So anyways, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplaysmartdates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplaysmartdates, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. My TRT clinic, all telemedicine from the comfort of your own home. Get high quality medical oversight from doctors who understand what kind of diagnostics and lab work you should be getting and how to interpret them, especially for women with hormonal issues too. This is something that, again, the level of complication associated with female hormones is like fucking 10x higher than dealing with just basic like low T in men. And there are a lot of clinics that can't even deal with low T properly and put you on a cookie cutter script of test HCG and anastrozole and kick you out the door. So you can just imagine when it comes to premenopause, perimenopause, postmenopausal women and trying to manage hormones, or in individuals who who are exposing themselves to anabolics or to, you know, trying to optimize their health, trying to even just like assess autoimmune issues. Like again, like some of the estrogenicity of the female body makes you a little bit more prone, it seems, to certain autoimmune issues. Like a lot of things that go overlooked and otherwise need more nuanced and deeper insight. That's the kind of shit you can expect from our clinic here. We pride ourselves on the high quality information, education of our patients, rather than just just fucking crunching out cookie cutter scripts of things. So if you don't have a good doctor in your camp for preventative medicine to be proactive about your stuff, highly recommend you check it out. It is in the video description below, as well as Gorilla Mind, nootropic formulas, Gorilla Mode, pre-workout formulas. I designed myself from scratch. I'm a recommended diet model for gaining muscle and sports performance, gaining strength, whilst being mindful of micronutrient intake, gut health, etc. As well as anything else I'm associated with, it is all in the video description below. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.